Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Gambles, and welcome back to another full card breakdown. This time for UFC Abu Dhabi. We're back on the road and we have ourselves a fun 12-fight card, all headlined by Robert Whittaker and Reinier de Ridder. Should be a very fun one, and I'm looking forward to it from both a DraftKings and a betting perspective. As always, we're going to break it down. If you want to check out any additional content, this stuff's just for free. This stuff's just my thoughts. Check out Established to run for full card premium DraftKings content, as well as CoolBet, where you can use code Gordo for 100% deposit match up to $100. Now, with that out of the way, I think it's a fun one. Early start time, and I think there's some pretty interesting scraps. So let's not waste any more time, and let's do this. Get the fight night started with the 15-2 Martin Buday versus the 5-1 Marcus Buchecha. Debut for Buchecha guy here, a guy who is very, very talented. He has himself plenty of BJJ credentials, and you look back into it, and the guy's good. This guy is a heavyweight ace on the mat, and something that you very rarely see. You see these other guys going out there, the Jilton Almeidas, or people who can go out there and get takedowns. They've had a lot of success here at heavyweight, and if that's the recipe for success, Buchecha is a very, very solid grappler, and maybe one of the best we've seen at heavyweight, with plenty of world championship titles. Now, he gets a big test here, and I mean big by the size of Buday, a guy who cuts down to 265, but a guy who typically wants to go out there and cage push. Now, I don't know really how much I'm going to expect from Buchecha on the feet. I still think Buday probably has more volume, but in this situation, Buchecha looks to have the goods. We know he has a phenomenal ground game, and the wrestling entries that he does seem to have do seem to be pretty good. Sometimes the BJJ guys, they can't wrestle. Buchecha looks to be able to have that. So in a matchup like this, I do think he can get him down at the feet, and I do think that when he is able to get him down there, he truly is a menace and someone that is able to have some success. Now, let's still be clear. Buday is the better striker, in my opinion, and Buday might have the opportunity to go out there and cage push and have some success. We still haven't really seen Buchecha challenge too much, but I do think that the biggest discrepancy is in the grappling, and I do think that Buchecha is going to have an advantage there. For that reason, he is going to be my pick to win. Now, am I going to be laying these odds on him moneyline-wise? Probably not. Maybe a sub or to the distance line, because that's, I do think, the way he's going to win, but it is a big boy in front of him. The line makers agree with me. Minus 300, minus 65 when it's at the distance. If I had to play anything, it'd probably be that, or even the submission line here, which we do see to be minus 105. I still think he gets some ground and pound there as well, but I do think more times than not, he is able to win this fight. Where I have probably the most interest for him, though, is going to be on DraftKings here. You have him 9.1K. Again, another solid range, but isn't as loaded as these past cards have been. So when we have these fighters, 9.6, 9.4, 9.3, 9.1K, a fighter who's minus 165 wins to the distance with a grappling path to victory at heavyweight, absolutely jumps off the page. I do like him very much for his price tag, and he will be a guy I'm playing. I'm going to kind of spoil things right now and say that the combinations of Leal, Buchecha, and Aslan, and maybe even Krylov, are going to be the plays that go to the most, and those are going to be the GP targets. But at 9.1K, he is a guy I really do like this week. Give me him to win, and I do think he makes a splash here in this division. And then we have the 12-5 Muhammad Yayha versus the 9-2 Steven Nguyen. And I do think this is a very interesting match between two lower-level fighters. I don't necessarily think either fighter is going to go be competing in the top 15 here anytime soon, especially not Muhammad Yayha, who has just not really looked that good. He's got decent power, decent physicality, but he's not striking that well, only averaging 2.38 strikes landed per minute, and 42% on takedown defense. It seems that although he has solid one-shot power offense, solid physicality, that's about it. Defensively, he's not really there, and he's someone who can be beat. He just doesn't really impress anybody here at all. So getting another matchup here after losing to Fernandez and Peak, I do think it's a spot where they're probably trying to set up Nguyen, who is a larger favorite in the spot here. Steven Nguyen actually has some decent metrics, 7.15 strike length per minute. He is a primary boxer. He's very solid at that as well. He has a ton of volume. Not the same one-shot power, not the best grappling either. I do think he can grapple, but someone who is preferably want to keep on the feet. Now, he is someone who can be controlled. He's someone who could also be hit at a pretty high clip, but is pretty durable. So in a spot like this, I do think it's an interesting matchup, but I am going to have to go with Nguyen just based off of volume. Now, can Muhammad Yayha go out there, land the bigger shots, land the moment-winning opportunities, maybe even win some cage push and control time? He probably can, but I don't think either fighters are worthy of getting my money laid on them at a high clip here. So I'm going to pick Steven Nguyen to win based off of volume, and probably even able to hurt him as Yayha gets tired down the stretch. So Steven Nguyen, round 3 decision, that's my play. DraftKings-wise, though, this fight's disgusting. I mean, 9.2K. I just talked about a grappling fighter with minus 65 wins at the distance. This guy's $100 more expensive than Steven Nguyen here. Muhammad Yayha also limits the amount of exchanges, so not many points able to go out there as well. I don't think I'm getting to Steven Nguyen that often. He's a little bit contrarian play. If I want more striking volume, I just go to Petr Yan ahead of him here. So maybe Yayha is bad enough that Nguyen goes out there and is able to score well. I just think he has nowhere near the ceiling that Leal or Nguyen or Aslan have in the spot here. So I won't be getting to it too often. He's a pick to win. Pretty low-level fight here, though. Speaking of Ibo Aslan, here he is, though, the 14-2 Ibo Aslan versus the 7-2 Billy Elekana. This is another fun light heavyweight matchup here as well. Ibo Aslan has a ton of power, and that is what he is known for. He goes out there, explodes into his opponents, and this guy truly has the ability to end fights in an instant. He kind of exposed last time there as well. His grappling certainly is a question mark. Ian could probably be able to go out there land takedown, submit him down there as well. But a very different opponent here in Billy Elekana, who made his debut on short notice, kind of got pummeled by Bogdan Guskov, but is a more well-rounded fighter. You know, you look at someone like Aslan, he's one-dimensional. He wants to go out there, take your head off, a ton of power to do so. Billy Elekana, he can strike. He probably wants to strike, has decent power, but he also can go out there and wrestle. He just doesn't excel at many things. And when he is being pressured, when he's being hit by big shots, we saw he was able to crumble there last time, albeit on short notice. So when you're facing a guy like Aslan who has that type of power to knock your head off, especially early on, you have to favor Aslan to go out there and get that early finish over someone who did not respond well to damage. Now, can Elekana go out there and land a takedown, get an upset win? Maybe. I mean, he 100% takedown accuracy. Woohoo! Small sample size there, though, with that. And I do think that Aslan has the physicality to keep this upright, is the stronger fighter, and doing so is being able to land the bigger shots. For that reason, it will be my pick to win. I am picking Aslan, but this is a fight that intrigues me from also a betting perspective in terms of I'll probably get towards it under here or a fight doesn't start round 3 or something like that, but also onto DraftKings. This is one of my favorite fights on the entire card. You have Aslan 8.9K. He scored 86 and 126 in his 2 wins. And for a fighter who was plus 145, plus 126 in some spots to win it in round 1, his round 1 win was 126 points. Now, do I expect him to hit that ceiling 100% of the time? Definitely not, but he has that type of power. When Guskov beat him, he scored 98 points there as well. So I do think there is a ceiling for a very good performance here in Aslan. And at 8.9K, round 1 finish upside, knockout upside, and a guy who I do think is trending towards being a larger favorite. One of my favorite plays on the slate at 8.9K. However, I do expect him to be somewhat popular, and if that's the case, Billy Elekana showed last time he can grapple, and against a guy in Aslan who has had those issues on the ground, Elekana at 7.3K is also a solid play this week. Nothing but a contrarian play in terms of you're getting off the ownership of Aslan, and you're really hoping Elekana is better than he has been in the past, but I do think he has a path. It's not that trustworthy, but I will have some ownership of him because he is able to go out there and wrestle, and we have seen Aslan wrestle in the past, so give me this fight from both sides, especially Aslan's side of things. He's my pick to win. Should be a violent affair. And then we have the 13-6 Amanda Ribas versus the 11-3 Tabitha Ricci. A pretty fun fight here at 115, and one that I do expect to be pretty competitive. I originally came in thinking, okay, Ricci might be the larger fighter here, maybe able to go out there and land some takedowns, have some control time. I forgot kind of how big Ribas may be in comparison, especially considering Ricci of her size, but also the fact that Ribas has been fighting at 125. Here back at 115, she's going to be the larger fighter with the larger reach, and I do think she has the opportunity to win this fight. I am picking Amanda Ribas. Is it enough to play her at a price tag? Probably not, but I do think she's the one who has more advantage in the spot here. She lands more strikes. She also absorbs a lot less. Tabitha Ricci absorbs 5.29 strikes per minute, whereas it's only 3.24 for Ribas. And as well as the level of competition for Ribas, she's also shown probably the better pure BJJ. Although Ricci's probably the better control grappler, Amanda Ribas could be larger, can also compete on the mat, and is able to have success down there. So if they are able to neutralize themselves on the mat, I think the better striker is Amanda Ribas. Larger frame, more range, more volume. I think she's able to win this one in what is a pretty close affair. However, considering it's probably going to judges' scorecards, I don't want to lay juice on any fighter here. Should be a close fight. DraftKings-wise, though, no thank you. I don't think Ribas is knocking her out too often. I think it's more likely than not a fight that goes the distance, and Ribas probably can have some success, keep us on the feet. The only way he gets this one is if, all right, if I'm not picking many underdogs to win, Ricci at 7.6K, I guess, has a better path to victory than a lot of other fighters in this range, so maybe that's the case, but surely not my favorite fight on DraftKings, not my favorite fight from a betting perspective. I expect Ribas to win, but don't want to put too much money into a fight like this. And then we have ourselves the 16-7 Davy Grant versus the 17-7-1 Damon Blackshear. We have ourselves another large favorite here in Blackshear, and he has shown he's got some good skills. He is a very good grappler, very good wrestler, also has the ability to go out there and box. He's been showing that a lot more recently, and that's kind of what I vividly remember because Blackshear is a phenomenal grappler, has a lot of opportunities against past opponents to go out there and grapple, but I've been yelling at my TV for him to wrestle, and he's wanted to strike recently. In this matchup here, I think if he wants to go out there and strike, this line is going to look a bit wide. I do think Damon Blackshear has a clear path to victory on the ground against Davy Grant. Davy Grant has been taken down, he's been controlled, and although he's a very unorthodox striker who can win minutes that way as well, he can also lose minutes quite easily on the ground. So if Damon Blackshear decides to go out there and have a wrestle-heavy approach, he can very much go out here to win this fight and live up to his price tag. The issue is he's wanted to go out there and box recently, and in doing so, not only does Davy Grant go out there and land more, he's got a very unorthodox style that has been seen to work and have the opportunities to win and judges' scorecards there as well. Not all the time. He has been robbed, don't get me wrong. So simply put, this is a fight where Blackshear should be favored. He has a clear path to victory, and I do think he can go out there and wrestle and potentially even threaten submissions here as well. But the longer this fight goes, the more striking changes there are, the more Davy Grant's going to have those opportunities to win the judges' scorecards. I mean, he has a very unorthodox style, and he himself can go out there and scramble here as well. So the younger fighter Blackshear should win, but I have a lot of question marks, and especially at this price tag here, minus 330, minus 120, 320, it's not a fight I'm getting too often. Blackshear by submissions being bet down plus 200. I honestly think this fight probably gets extended, especially considering we haven't been able to trust Blackshear. But yes, more times than not, Blackshear is able to go out there and probably land a submission, considering that's his best path. But a very interesting fight. I'm picking him on Blackshear, but kind of scared of what path he's going to take here. On DraftKings, though, he's kind of in a weird spot. I will call him an immediate pivot off the two guys around him. Buchecha above him he's going to go out there and wrestle. His path to victory is grappling. That's his whole base. We know he's going to go out there and wrestle. Aslan has round one knockout ability. Blackshear has the path to a very high ceiling and probably at lower ownership as well, but we don't know if he's going to take it for sure, whereas the other two guys probably have more certainty around them. So a lot riskier, but probably a good pivot play with people around him. I do think you'll get some advantage to the ownership around him there. Flip side of things, Grant, even if he can win, I don't see him getting a knockout too often. If anything, probably be like a 60, 70 point decision win. If you're not picking any other underdogs, then maybe there's a chance, but if Elekana wins, he's going to score a double what Grant does kind of thing. So you're really playing into your ceilings that way as well. I'm picking Blackshear, but I have some question marks about this fight. And then we have the 22-6 Carlos Leal versus the 21-5 King of Kung Fu Muslim Salikhov. Large favorite in this spot, and it's kind of clear to see why. You have someone like Carlos Leal who has a ton of back knee, very powerful guys going forward and absolutely blasting the head off these poor opponents. He is very powerful, decent cardio, and just wants to go out there and kill you. He has a ton of power to do so. I think I've said power 3 times, but he is very aggressive, and he is able to stop the fight pretty quickly. He's facing a 41-year-old Muslim Salikhov here who has been knocked out in the near future, and if you watch his tape, he is someone who does not respond that well to pressure, and that's exactly what Carlos Leal is going to do. So I do think if this fight is from range, Muslim Salikhov is able to have success, but the quicker, more powerful, pressure-oriented fighter here is going to be Carlos Leal, and more times than not, I think he is able to go forward, hunt the finish, and probably get that in a spot here where I do think he is not only younger, but also more polished inside the pocket here. The odds reflect that. -175 to win inside the distance, -135 to win by knockout. This fight ends by KO and at -200. If anything near that, I actually do not mind, because I do think the path to victory for Salikhov is maybe a spinning kick or something like that as well. But I think more times than not, Leal does land that knockout shot, and I'm picking him to win. On DraftKings, it's pretty interesting because he's 9.4K. We're going to talk about Magomedov later on in the card, but I do think Leal has a ton of pressure and is going to go out there and look to take the head off of Salikhov. He has a very good chance of winning in round 1, so his DraftKings viability should be shot pretty high. -500 to win, -185 inside the distance, favored to win in round 1. I do think he has knockout power, and although he is a very boomer bust option, one of my favorite guys up top in tournaments for sure, a ton of viability. I do like him a lot this week. Salikhov, don't see him winning too often, so I'm not getting to him too often, but a spot where I do think Leal is a very viable DraftKings option here, and I am picking him to win. Then we have the 17-4 Bryce Mitchell versus the 18-4 Syed Nurmagomedov, and this is a really tough one to call. It's a very close fight. I'm really interested to see how Bryce Mitchell does look at 135, finally cutting down here, but he is someone who has been around the block. Very, very solid wrestler. We know he wants to go out there, control, and hold up Bible and praise Jesus. This guy is a character, and he wants to go out there and really utilize his wrestling. His striking is kind of coming along, but he needs that control wrestling. He needs to be able to go out there and win minutes on the ground. Has a twister, but not always the best submission grappler. More of a control guy against his top level. Now, Syed Nurmagomedov's a guy I also like. I bet him a lot in the past, for being completely honest, but he's a guy who has very solid, flashy striking. He's able to go out there and spin, land a lot of shots, win moments that way as well. But he's also able to go out there and threaten submissions. He's not a typical Nurmagomedov. He doesn't want to go out there, shoot takedowns of his own. He wants to keep his fight upright most of the time and look to outstrike you. Not the most volume, only landing 3.38 strikes per minute, but will have the volume advantage here. He's very defensively sound with a 56% striking defense, and a guy who I do think can win this fight in a multitude of ways. Now, to my good friend Eric, who's a very big Bryce Mitchell fan, I'm sorry. I'm going with Syed here. I do think that although Bryce Mitchell has the clearest path, which is takedowns and going out there and being able to wrestle, Syed has more options, right? He can outstrike him. I think he's the better striker from range, can win optics that way as well. He also is the signature ninja choke guy, which is the way that we've seen Bryce Mitchell finish, the way he's lost last time as well. Syed does not have the same one-shot power or pressure that John Silva did last time or previous opponents. Syed is able to get up very easily. He's going to threaten front chokes in which Bryce Mitchell sticks his head out there as well, and is going to be winning the striking exchanges there as well. So, although if you said gun to my head, who do we think wins, I'd probably have more contention to this pick. I do think that at the way the odds are right now, I think he's plus 125, plus 120, plus 122. I'm going to pick Syed Nurmagomedov. I think he can go out there, land the submission with the front choke series, have the ability to threaten that all 15 minutes, but win the striking exchanges, have the get-up game to really stall the control time of Bryce Mitchell, who isn't always the best control grappler, and a more proven guy at this weight class. So a very, very close fight to call. I did pick Syed, though. On DraftKings, though, in the mid-range, a very important fight. 8.3K, Bryce Mitchell has scored very well in the past. I do think if he wants to win, he has to go out there and grapple. Scored 123 against Barbosa, 112 against Feely, 108 against Sales, 105 against Gracie, only 80 against Ige, but a guy who does have a wrestling path to victory, and I think that's how you beat Syed Nurmagomedov. So Bryce Mitchell, solid play at 8.3K. Conversely, I just said, if Said wants to win, he has that front choke series, so has an opportunity to get a finish that way as well. And he's the first underdog I picked so far in the card. So a guy who I will get to on DraftKings, a very popular fight. I did pick Said, but a fight who I want both sides of on DraftKings this week and should be a pretty entertaining one. On to the main card, we have the 30-10 Nikita Krylov versus the 17-3 Bogdan Guskov, and this fight is going to make or break my day probably because I haven't been able to get Guskov right. This is a fight between two fighters who have been pretty inconsistent, and I just want to preface this by saying Krylov should win. Right? Bogdan Guskov's not a guy who I rate too highly. Not the best cardio, not really a good ground game, not even the most volume, but round one power, a ton of knockout power, and that has beaten people in the past. Nikita Krylov is someone who has looked fantastic. He has great wrestling, great volume, solid power himself in his own right. I bet him last time over Dominic Reyes, but he's been inconsistent. He's been choked out. He's been knocked out last time, and that was not a very good look from his side of things. So I fully am aware that Bogdan Guskov could knock out Krylov early on. We just saw that happen. It's a path. Krylov did not look very good in the last matchup. But oh my God, does Krylov have advantages here? He has clear wrestling path to victory against someone with a 57% takedown defense who was taken down and beat on the ground by Billy Elekana, right? You have someone in Krylov who averages 2.24 takedowns per minute with a 53% takedown accuracy. Volkan Oezdemir made Guskov look like an absolute baby on the mat there as well. So I do think Krylov can have those advantages. Additionally, on the feet, Krylov has more volume, has fought the better level of competition, and he himself can hit hard. So to me, this is Krylov's fight to lose. He should win. He should win. He should win. Let me say it one more time. He should win. But I do think his chin can be a concern, and he has not looked the best, especially coming off a large layoff last time. So again, he should win this fight, but I am very concerned. For that reason, not only do I want to find a way to play the under, maybe if fight doesn't start round 3, it's at -2.5. Maybe we'll parlay it. Who knows? This fight should be violent. But I do think the way you play Guskov is probably a round 1 knockout. It's his path to victory, and it's currently sitting at +650. I will be playing that. But other than that, Krylov to win round 3, Krylov by submission at +210. Those are spots I like. This fight should finish. I do think it could happen a multitude of ways. I'm picking Krylov, but Guskov does have some round 1 viability. Because of that, on DraftKings, top fight, one of my favorite fights on the card. I know I talked about Buchecha being great, Aslan being great. This is another fight I want a lot of. 8.7K. Nikita Krylov has scored phenomenal in the past. 121 against Span, 127 against Oezdemir, 120 against Gustafsson, 105 against Walker. This guy has scored fantastic. However, he has lost in round 1, and you look at the way that Guskov's been able to score. He scored 107 against Pauga, scored 96 against Span, scored 98 against Elekana. This is a fight I want for both sides, whether it be Krylov at 8.7K or Guskov 7.5K being a viable underdog with a round 1 path to victory. This is a great fight to target. I am picking Krylov. He will be a cornerstone in a lot of my lineups. But I will have a lot of exposure to the underdog here, who at 7.5K has a pretty high ceiling. Give me Nikita Krylov. And then we have the Twitter divide of the week, a very, very close contested fight between two prospects here, and Jose Ochoa, who is 8-1, and the 21-3 Asu Almabayev. A very, very fun fight between two prospects. Jose Ochoa, he's only 24 years old. He's a very young fighter who has a lot of promise. Great knockout last time, great hands, finds a very good camp out of the shoot the box there as well, and he can go out there and threaten submissions. Asu Almabayev, a Kazakhstan prospect, may have faltered last time against Manel Kaab, but also is a very, very good wrestler who can also strike in the feet. I completely see the validity to both sides. I think Jose Ochoa is a true prospect here with a lot of great striking opportunities who has had some good wins. Asu Almabayev, I think, is going to be the pick for me this week. And hear me out. Asu Almabayev not only has the ability to compete on the feet, be a solid boxer with solid striking defense there as well, but he has that clear grappling path to victory. Last time, a lot of people were on Cody Durden because we haven't seen Ochoa grappled. Yet he looked good in his takedown defense last time here as well. Asu Almabayev is a phenomenal grappler. He averages 4.13 takedowns for 15 minutes. Threads a lot of submissions there as well, and I do think he is a very physical fighter. He's going to be smaller than Jose Ochoa here, but I do think he has the opportunity to threaten submissions, control Jose Ochoa on the mat here as well, and win minutes that way. I just think the difference in the grappling is a lot larger than the difference in the striking to have some success there. Now, can Jose Ochoa go out there, march forward, land big shots, win the striking changes? 100%. I just think more times than not, Asu Almabayev is able to steal rounds with takedowns, able to match the output on the feet, and make it a pretty close competitive fight. So, although I don't have the utmost confidence in it, I'm picking Asu Almabayev. Now, this line's been back and forth. Asu Almabayev has been an underdog. Now he's the favorite. Money's coming in on him here as well. I typically like my grapplers, so although this things could be a fight of the night contender, this is a fight that I do expect to go longer distances, and in doing so, I'm picking the guy who can also go out there and grapple here in Asu Almabayev. DraftKings, because of that, Asu Almabayev, grappling path to victory, wrestling-oriented fighter, 8K, sure, I want him. I'm not picking him an underdog, so he is the underdog on DraftKings. I'm counting him as what I'm picking this week here as well. So he will fit in nicely to my lineups. There is some worlds where maybe he slows the fight down on the feet, not that much volume, but he does have a grappling path. Whereas Ochoa, he's not going to wrestle. So without that knockout, he isn't going to land enough shots or have enough points to go out there and be an Almabayev, in my opinion. I think it's Almabayev or pass. Despite Ochoa having some validity to win, he doesn't have that same path to the optimal that a Michell, Whittaker, or anybody else does in this range. So give me Almabayev, very close fight. I'm looking forward to it, and it should be a good one. Then we have the 15-1 Magomedov versus the 17-9 Marc-Andre Barriault. I love Canada. I truly do. Canada, I rep it all the time. Poor Canada here. That's all I gotta say. Marc-Andre Barriault is kind of being fed to the wolves here at Magomedov. I haven't always been the biggest Magomedov guy. I picked MVP against him last time. I picked Armor Petrosian against him last time there as well. I think he is beatable. But what he is a phenomenal striker. Very flashy, very quick kicks, and has some solid power behind it. He's a guy who's able to control range very well. Marc-Andre Barriault, fulfilling the Canadian stereotypes, is a hockey brawler. He wants to sit in the phone booth and just start swinging. And in doing so, you can do that against the Stolfises of the world, Eric Anders, right? Actually, you couldn't do it against Stolfis, so I corrected there. But against someone like Magomedov, you're really being fed against someone with much better striking, much better footwork, and someone who's going to be able to land on you. The issue with Marc-Andre Barriault is he used to be durable. He's now been to finish a lot of these spots here, and Magomedov is going to hit hard and threaten the finish here as well. So, yes, I'm picking Magomedov. I'm ashamed by it to pick against a Canadian, but you kind of have to. He has the striking path to victory. He should be able to land that big shot. He should be able to knock him out. The path for Marc-Andre Barriault is clinching, utilizing his size, and going out there and dirty boxing him towards victory, maybe even wrestling there as well. But you have just 0.21 takedowns for 15 minutes at a 25% accuracy. I think more times than not, Magomedov is able to go out there, land the big shot, and get that knockout. And that is why he is a pretty large favorite at minus 600. Here's where the real talk starts. He's 9.6K on DraftKings in Magomedov. Yes, he should win early. We have seen Marc-Andre Barriault knocked out in the first minute, so there's a quick win bonus on the table. But he has not scored that well. 106 against Petrosian, 93 against Tricoli. He has yet to get a first-round finish at the UFC. He's also not going to wrestle. He's not going to have any control time. He needs to get a first-round finish, or he's not in the optimal lineup. Additionally, you have so many high scorers. I've talked about Krylov, Aslan, Buchecha, Carlos Leal, right below him, who are cheaper, might phase him out the optimal lineup. So yes, Magomedov has some viability. He should win, but he needs everything to go right to go out there and hit the optimal lineup. And Barriault has historically been tough. So what if Barriault survives round 2? Magomedov's not going to make it. Magomedov needs a first-round finish, so he's very, very risky. I kind of prefer Leal straight up. However, there is some viability in Magomedov. Barriault, out of everybody in this bottom range, I don't mind. I mean, he has a path to victory that's going to include lots of volume. If he can survive shots, I think he can land volume. But he's the better fighter. He's a better fighter at this point of victory than Salikhov, than Yayha, Buday. I don't mind him, but he's nothing but a punt play. Maybe I'll have 4 or 5% of him down low. But give me Magomedov. Should be one he wins. And if you're fading him, you just hope this fight makes it to round 2. Then you have the 18-5 Petr Yan and the 10-1 Marcus McGhee in the co-main event. A big step up in competition for Marcus McGhee, someone who I have not been the highest on, but someone who has showed incredible athleticism, a lot of power, and a good finishing ways. I did pick Jonathan Martinez last time, and I thought Jonathan Martinez could have won that one. I might have, but Marcus McGhee is someone who does have good, solid ability to win fights with his power and solid opportunistic grappling. However, he is facing the likes of Jonathan Martinez, Gaston Bolanos, JP Buys, Johnny Newsom, whereas you have Petr Yan, a top 5 guy in this division for a long time. Only losses coming to Aljo O'Malley Dvalishvili, been the champ for a while. Beat Yadong over a lot, it's been a period of time. Dominated Figueiredo. This is a guy who is a top fighter who's getting a step down in competition. So this one's a bit confusing to me, and that's the reason why we have such a large favorite here. Minus 375 for Petr Yan, 410 in some places. This is his fight to lose. He's the way better technical boxer and striker. He makes reads as the fight goes on, very defensively sound here as well. I also think he's the better pure wrestler. I mean, he has those trips. He's able to do that very, very well. Also a very good base to defend takedowns, unless you're anything from Dvalishvili. But he's just the better overall fighter with a better level of competition. This should be his fight to lose, and getting a step down here. So I'm on Petr Yan. I do think Marcus McGhee has power, but I don't think he's finishing Petr Yan. I don't think he's out wrestling him here. How does he win? Based off of moments? That's kind of what Sean O'Malley did. Maybe his opportunity's there, but I do think Petr Yan should win this fight. The only concern I do have is he typically builds in round 1 as a 3-round fight. So if he doesn't go out there if he goes out there and fights his normal plan, loses round 1, he needs to win the last 2 rounds, and I think he can. I'm picking him to do so. A little bit harder to win dominantly if that's the case, though. So give me Petr Yan. Should win this fight at a very high clip. It's just a step down in competition. DraftKings-wise is another interesting one because, again, he's 9.3K. He's not going to land a ton of takedowns. It's only a 3-round fight. And he scored 88 against Zedong, 79 against Rivera in a decision there. He has scored really, really well in the past. Do not get me wrong. But he doesn't have the same finish upside Buchecha has, or a Aslan, or a Krylov, or a Leal. He kind of gets out-phased there for me. I mean, this fight is minus 260 to the distance. Not the same finish upside. I'm scared of him. For that reason, I prefer Leal straight up, prefer Buchecha, prefer Aslan. It's just tough to get to him. So I'm not completely fading him. I think he wins at a high clip, just not the same metrics to make the optimal lineup as people around him. And for that reason, it won't be as high on him. But give me Petr Yan to win. And then the main event, we have the 27-8 Robert Whittaker versus the 20-2 RDR Renier de Ritter. I don't know, man. Robert Whittaker's taking a step down in competition here, a guy who's been at the top forever. Yes, he got his teeth crushed last time by Kazmat, but he has been a guy who has phenomenal takedown defense, who's been an incredible striker on the feet, and who has beaten the best of the best easily over the course of his career. I've seen RDR compared a lot to DDP this week, and that I also get because he kind of he doesn't look that good, but he's got phenomenal grappling. He finds his self into some good situations, and although he looks like he tires easily, has been able to put on a sustained pace. He upset Buday last time. Maybe that's why he's getting this matchup here, but truly is a guy who I think has his flaws. Though he is a phenomenal grappler, his striking is truly the levels below Robert Whittaker. His cardio is also in question. We have also seen him quit. He hasn't fought the same level of competition that Whittaker has. Whittaker has all these tools to win, but RDR typically finds a way. Now, we did see Whittaker lose to DDP, and I mean, de Ritter is like DDP apparently, so maybe he has that path. But he doesn't have that same physicality. I don't know if he's going to bully Whittaker into the takedowns the same way that Kazmat did. So for that reason, I'm picking Whittaker, and I'm very close to putting a decent-sized bet on him this week. He's much better takedown defense, 81% here as well. And he's got the much better striking, 4.54 strikes landed per minute, much better striking defense at 60%. He's going to dictate where this fight takes place, in my opinion, and I think he's able to break RDR the longer this fight goes. So, yes, getting up there's just concerns there, but I do think that more times than not, Whittaker should win this fight. This line is a lot closer than I expected, and this minus 50 line is staring at me. I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm very close to placing a bet here. I do like Robert Whittaker a lot this week. I think it's a buy low spot on him. But, I mean, if there's anyone you should be scared of, it's the RDR DDP type of fighters, right? The three initials, something about them helps them win, apparently. So, give me Robert Whittaker, and on DraftKings with 5 rounds to work, 8.4K, another guy I like very much. I do think it's a later finish, and therefore is a solid fighter, I think, to roster this week with all his rounds to work. Conversely, though, RDR, 7.8K. His path to victory is pretty early. That's what we just said, right? Early finish, fluke, kind of like DDP did. That could score very well. And I didn't pick many underdogs to win, so he also has a viability. There are more times than not, I will take the Whittaker side of things. But that's going to do it for me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. And quickly running through my quick picks, we're taking Robert Whittaker, Petr Yan, Magomedov, Almabayev, Nikita Krylov, Nurmagomedov, Muslim Salikhov, Blackshear, Amanda Ribas, Ivo Aslan, Steven Nguyen, and Marcus Buchecha. On DraftKings, I do think it's a really fun slate. I think my favorite options that I mentioned up top are probably Leal, Buchecha, Aslan, and Krylov. Those four are going to build a lot of my lineups up top, especially in tournaments. I still want to sprinkle in some Magomedov to do a quick win bonus upside. I do think that Blackshear is a solid contrarian playing that mid-range. And then I also talked about how Whittaker, Michell, and Almabayev and Nurmagomedov are solid mid-range options. But what it's really going to go down to is what underdogs are viable, right? Barriault could be a punt, but he's not going to win too often. Neither is Salikhov, neither is McGhee, neither is Yayha. Buday, I also don't think he's going to be able to win this fight. So, okay. Above that, we have Davey Grant, who is a striking-based fighter. I don't want to get to him that often. That leaves me with Billy Elekana, who needs almost a miracle grappling round 1 performance. Super high ceiling. Don't think it happens too often, but he has some upside. Guskov, who has a round 1 KO upside, but aside from that, is probably going to lose. And then Ricci, who has decision upside. RDR, who has early upside. It's really tough to make lineups, especially really tough to get up to Magomedov. So if I say, okay, I'm going to bite the bullet, I think Guskov could pull off an upset here. I think I picked Magomedov, I picked Asu, right? 8.9K. I told you I want Leal, and I want Marcus Buchecha. That leaves me with a really tough build where I can't really get to anybody I want. So maybe sometimes I avoid this top range. I go down from Leal, I'm able to pick up an Aslan here, and therefore I can build my Whittaker lineup. That's a lineup I like. So really tough drafting slate this week. Hopefully what I said was able to help you build those lineups there, but I do like that. From a betting side of things, nothing locked in so far. I'll be betting Whittaker, especially if he stays at this price tag. Aside from that, also don't mind some fight ends in KO in the Salikhov-Leal fight. Maybe get to a side moneyline play if it keeps on climbing, as well as finding some unders. Make sure to check me out on Twitter at GamblesGordo to see my full slate of bets. We're on a 6-fight winning streak, so hopefully we're able to keep that locked in into this weekend. But with that, guys, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Make sure to like button down below, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you all for tuning in. Wish you all the best of luck in all your DraftKings betting endeavors, guys, and let's make some money.